Several months ago, I did a video debunking CBR's most powerful Star Wars characters video, but it was unfortunately thrown together very quickly, and looking back, I do regret not re-recording anything. So to celebrate the fact that I just got a better microphone, I'm redoing that video with some new material added in. May I present CBR Debunked Remastered.
The Force is strong in this video. But what does that even mean?
If even you don't know, then why are you even bothering making this video? That's extremely redundant.
Sure, you could go by midichlorian count, but no one wants that.
Oh wow, another nobody likes the midichlorians joke. Careful not to cut yourself on that edge.
We can emphasize ability with the Force, battle strategy, or combat skills.
Okay, I don't want to spend too much time philandering on the introduction, but I will say this now. CBR's biggest problem when they put these lists together is that they're kind of lying to you with the title. When they say most powerful, they mean it literally. Not who is going to defeat the other person in the most scenarios powerful, like the who has the most amount of other useless traits power, or who is the most popular with the fanbase power. That's why you end up with ludicrous lists where Obadiah Stane is more powerful than Dormammu, or Cruella de Vil is more powerful than literally Satan. So when CBR or Screen Rant or any of these other clickbait sites promise to rank things specifically by strongest fighter, as they're trying to do here, they come up short because they have little to no experience in the Versus series. Now let's dive into the actual ranking.
If this was a green milk drinking contest, well, Luke would win this easily.
Please don't act like that's a good thing. Okay, here's the important thing I'd like to bring up about Luke, and this is something I touch on in the original as well. This story's version of Luke has cut himself off from the Force for the majority of the time. His only feat that we know of is projecting himself across this galaxy and then dying instantly. He has no combative feats, no frame of reference to tell us how far he's come from his younger self. Heck, in the Legends, he did both of those things with ease. Yeah, remember Dark Empire? He has a projection of himself to Han and Leia, and they didn't even know that he wasn't really there. The closest we get to Luke in this story doing a fight is him dancing around Ben's lightsaber swings. But Ben and Rey both seem to use their lightsabers more like tattered baseball bats in this trilogy. I'm pretty sure Luke could have beaten them both in Empire Strikes Back.
It's one thing to confront the Empire as a lone rebel. It's another entirely to sit in the throne room of two powerful Sith Lords and resist the dark side.
If you really want to get technical about this, Obi-Wan Kenobi pulled off the exact same feat. At the beginning of Revenge of the Sith, he and Anakin are sitting in the throne room with two powerful Sith Lords, and Obi-Wan resists. Dooku is basically his Jedi grandfather, you know, the master of my master, and he still never fell to the dark side, because he believed that the Jedi were worth standing up for on their own. That's something Luke never had. Just saying.
Luke showed a natural connection with the Force, and on top of that, he's a brilliant pilot and marksman. It took all his ability to bring back the Jedi from the brink of extinction. Even in that failure, we see real success.
First, remember earlier when I mentioned that they like to list useless information instead of actual feats? Unless you're pitting these characters against one another in an aerial battle or a shootout, his skills as a pilot and a marksman are null and void in this discussion. Second, I'd like to know exactly where you're seeing this success. Luke ultimately fails to bring the Jedi back in this timeline. For God's sake, he screwed up so badly the Jedi had to put all their hopes into a Palpatine to continue their legacy. Good job, Luke. What a bloody legend.
It's not surprising to see two Skywalkers at the top of this list. The two of them fulfilled the prophecy and brought balance to the Force.
And how does throwing Palpatine down a shaft and then dying for it immediately, not even getting the best of Palpatine, just pick him up and yeet him when he's not looking, how does that explain how Vader is the most powerful in the galaxy? Well, second, but that doesn't really say anything about his combative capabilities. And the idea that they had to bring the balance to the Force together, I don't know, I just can't stand the idea that everyone's talking about the chosen ones now.
Anakin Skywalker showed promise from an early age, and everyone knew his connection with the Force and talent on the battlefield made him a serious threat. Darth Vader shows a natural leadership quality in the early days of the Empire's conquest. His military might is unparalleled, and his instinct is special. Not to mention his skills with a lightsaber push him even further up this list, hence why he's number 2 in the galaxy.
Do you have any actual feats to back up what you're saying? I know there are some grains of truth to this, because I'm a longtime fan. But to anyone else, this is just you buttering up Vader with no concrete evidence. Like if I said, Vader commonly rode grizzly eagle sharks into battle, and he had one in his castle on Mustafar. Or Vader actually began liking sand after he got into the suit. He carried pocket sand with him everywhere he went, and vacationed on Tatooine every single year. Those two statements have the same validity as yours, because you're choosing to have no factual examples to speak of.
Darth Sidious is a sneaky snake who doesn't let others see the full extent of his powers. It's clear his political sense is unheralded, but his combat skills leave a lot to be desired.
First off, his political nuances do not help him on a battlefield. Second, he dueled two of the most powerful Jedi in galactic history to a point where fans debate who actually won to this day. Third, and I'm genuinely curious, so let me ask you this. If Vader was more skilled and more powerful than Sidious, as you suggest, why wouldn't Vader have taken him down years before Return of the Jedi? Think that through like a Watsonian, not a doylist. He's constantly trying to find other people who can help him fight the Emperor, because he knows that he can't really take him head on. Luke, Ahsoka, Starkiller.
He's able to corrupt strong Jedi and push them to follow his command.
Technically speaking, the Jedi in this situation were only doing what he said because he's the Chancellor of the Republic and they owe him their allegiance. But if you really can only put him up here because of his charisma and his ability to make other people do what he wants, then by your definition, any salesman off the street could be in the top 10.
We were so tempted to put General Kenobi at the top of this list. You guys have no idea how much we wanted to do that, but the truth won out.
Hey, the truth never stopped you from spreading misinformation in the rest of this video, or the rest of this channel, or the rest of your website.
He did defeat a Sith apprentice as a Padawan, so major props there. In fact, it's clear to us that he is the most skilled swordsman in the galaxy. Even Anakin was no match for his talent.
If you knew anything about Star Wars, you would know that everything in that statement was false. Amazing. Every word of what you just said was wrong. Maul toyed around with him for like 30 seconds, put Kenobi in his place the second it got serious, and then Maul got arrogant and Obi-Wan got out of the situation by pure luck. You just saying that he's the best duelist in the galaxy means nothing unless you have evidence to back up such a ludicrous claim. And Anakin couldn't keep up with his talent. Really. In all honesty, I would compare the two to Azula and Zuko in Avatar. Anakin was the super talented guy. He got about 12 years of training, and he was able to outfence the man with nearly a literal Gettysburg speech of experience. Get it? Because he was 83 years old? My history jokes are lost on you guys. But Kenobi! Kenobi's the guy who started on almost nothing, and earned his place at the top through sheer determination and perseverance. So to say his talent got him through all of this is an insult to everything that the character stands for.
For our money, Yoda is definitely the strongest Jim Henson-style puppet. Kermit's got nothing on him. Yoda is far and away the strongest Force user on this list. His connection with the world allows him to peer into the future and discern people's troubles. The Force and Yoda are basically best buds. They go for drinks on weekday nights. That's how close they are. He may have lost a step or two in the combat area, but never underestimate this little green dude.
While I do appreciate the Henson joke, this is a very strange placing. The only thing they want to list for Yoda is seeing the future and sensing feelings. Two very basic traits of Jediism. Like if I said, Obi-Wan could win an Olympic medal, he can walk on 2 legs. That tells us nothing about his actual abilities. And technically speaking, we've never seen Yoda lose a fight. He's only been confirmed to win or fight to a draw. And his draws were with an amped up Darth Sidious, who is canonically the most powerful Sith Lord of all time, or when his enemy simply ran away from him, like Count Dooku. If you're curious what I mean by amped up Palpatine, I got a video in the works to talk about it, but that's not why I'm here today.
You're not making an accurate power ranking list if you don't put your franchise's Samuel L. Jackson character near the top. The man rocks every role that he plays, and almost every role that he plays is the biggest threat on the screen.
Actor does not equal character. Like, if I was compiling a list of strongest Avengers characters, I wouldn't put Nick Fury anywhere near the top 10, no matter how cool Sam Jackson is. I don't even know if I'd put him in the top 25. And I'll save you some time on the rest of the points with this entry. They gush about how he came close to defeating Palpatine and would have killed him if not for Anakin. Not true. They call him the second greatest lightsaber duelist in the galaxy behind Kenobi. Also not true. They say it's time for general fans to respect him. I'm like 99% sure that most people already do.
There's not much known about the great Sith Lord who Sidious was loyal to for a time. One thing is for sure though, it might be Jar Jar Binks.
I mean, I was all for the Darth Jar Jar theory, especially after seeing Loxton's hour-long video essay, but I guess now I have to disavow it. Because if the people at CBR can comprehend the idea of this theory, it's clearly got some kind of flaw that I was missing before. But getting back on track. The problem with doing Darth Plagueis without any reference to the Legends novel is that you have to make a lot of assumptions about him. I can tell you exactly what his stats and skill level are, because I read the book. But the canon gives you absolutely no clue for either of those.
Maybe it's the fact that we've seen Liam Neeson do this, or the fact that he's done this. Either way, it's easy to envision his Star Wars persona as equally powerful.
This guy, that guy, still not valid.
The Jedi Knight that we got a glimpse of is only showing off a fraction of his talent. Qui-Gon is tied down to a story that's limited in action sequences. He doesn't fight much, and when he does, he loses. And that might take him down a few pegs on some people's lists. But we remain firm believers in the potential.
Qui-Gon was a master, and you still need feats. It doesn't matter how hard you believe, Tinkerbell isn't going to wave her pixie dust and make him a more powerful Jedi. Wait, it's a Disney show now, they might actually do that. But my point is, Qui-Gon had to put everything into his ability to fight Darth Maul, put up an amazing fight, and lost gracefully to a superior swordsman. Please read the Phantom Menace novelization in the future.
Ahsoka Tano would barely crack this list years ago.
Wait, you were gonna put her on this list from the old Clone Wars? This video was made long before we got to see the Siege of Mandalore. They have no excuse for this idea. But to be fair, I do kind of agree with the placement on this list. There's still a lot of philandering around her character and no real feats mentioned, but they aren't technically wrong in this assessment. A broken clock and all that.
We were pretty split on this one. On the one hand, Darth Maul is one of the most imposing villains in the entire franchise. On the other hand, he was literally cut in half by a Padawan, so things tend to even out here.
While I disagree on basically everything you just said, and call into question why you're giving him flack on the Kenobi battle when you were praising Kenobi for this win, this is something many other fans also talk about, so fair enough. Maybe this list is actually getting better.
Count Dooku isn't here for fun and games. He switched to the dark side to gain power and bring new order to the galaxy, and he was so close to making it happen too.
I retract my previous statement. Dooku turned to the dark side because he was mad that his apprentice died and the Jedi did basically nothing about it. He was also frustrated with the way that the galaxy was being run and felt like he could do it better, but remembered that he used slave labor to run the Confederacy and actively ordered his troops to target civilians who were actively out of the line of fire. Don't try to act like he's some kind of tragic political hero. Oh, and since this list was supposed to be about power and skill, remember that Dooku is known to have bested Mace Windu in combat and stalemate Yoda. Give him a little more respect.
Kylo is getting stronger, but he shows no signs of being a master strategist or fighter. He's tied deeply to the Force thanks to his bloodline, but that's all he has going for him right now.
I'm just gonna skip over the rest of this and the Rey entry because the entirety of it is just, they suck, but we're gonna put them here anyway. I honestly don't know what they were thinking when they wrote these entries.
She's one of the only Force users to flow between light and dark and then back to light. Her natural ability carried her far in life, but her lack of real training from a Sith or a Jedi Master was her downfall. If she just got a chance to refine her skills, she could have been one of the most renowned fighters in the entire Clone Wars.
I have several questions. 1. Have you heard of Revan? Or even just Anakin Skywalker? 2. Did you actually bother to watch the Clone Wars? The fact that she could evade Anakin and Obi-Wan and match them both was a testament to her skill, but she also bested Luminara Unduli, who isn't on this list for some strange reason, and pushed General Grievous on his back foot, who is criminally underrated by this list. But we'll get to that when we get to that. Palpatine was legitimately concerned that she was going to become Dooku's actual apprentice because she was already a prized pupil and one of his best students, which is why he ordered her execution. So for you to just say that she has no skill and no talent, that's insane.
Supreme Leader Snoke is an enigma.
Had you waited about 6 weeks to make this video, you would have learned where Snoke came from and what he's actually capable of. I can't really fault you for not playing with a full deck of cards when even Disney wasn't sure of where the plot was going for about 2 years. But there isn't much else I can say about this when everyone already knows it's wrong. Moving on.
Congrats, Boba, you're the first entry for a non-Force user.
I don't even feel the need to debunk this one because they couldn't even be bothered to double check and make sure the footage was actually Boba Fett's. I mean, that would imply that someone other than me had to watch this piece of garbage. But really? Django?
He's also a skilled Force user and an expert tactician. He led an entire army underwater and held his own in all of his combat missions.
Wait, so now we're accepting the Clone Wars micro-series as canon? Why would you put Kit Fisto under Boba Fett? What has Boba Fett done to prove that he's above Kit Fisto in combat? I'd like to see Boba take on General Grievous in single combat.
Before he became Kanan Jarrus, he was Caleb Dome.
While I readily admit that Kanan is underrated by the fans and he does deserve a place close to the Council in terms of skill and power, putting him this high and ignoring basically the rest of the Council is a big mistake. And stop pronouncing his name like you're trying to summon a tribal spirit. It's Kanan Jarrus and Caleb Doom.
Mundi had the foresight to worry about the droid attack on the Wookiees, and if that doesn't earn him a spot on this list, then we don't know what will.
How about literally everything else he did in the rest of his life? You say that he didn't have much time to show that he was competent. He had an entire lifetime to prove that. Even before the Clone Wars, he was already known to be one of the best Jedi Masters in the galaxy, and one of the most skilled swordsmen the Order had to offer. And where's the rest of the Jedi Council? Are you actually trying to make a competent list, or is this just a popularity contest, CBR? You need to pick one and stick with it.
Bendu's power is hard to gauge. Some might argue he deserves to be much higher on this list. Others are going to claim that he doesn't deserve a spot on this list at all.
Is that really such a bold claim to make, though? If you're going to allow Force entities to appear on this list, then you also have to take into account the fact that the father, son, and daughter exist. Their power clearly exceeds everyone you've mentioned so far.
She literally floats Mary Poppins style in the middle of space.
You know, the sad part about this is, if they had waited to make this video until after Rise of Skywalker came out, they could have made a legitimate case for Leia. I mean, the way this trilogy handled her power is stupid, but there's at least something to be said about her skills in this movie. But since CBR couldn't help themselves, the only thing they can do here is pretend like that Mary Poppins bit is actually a good thing.
So who better to break up all this good than the Grand Inquisitor, a guy known for his Jedi hunting skills?
I know we're getting to the bottom of the list, but the problem with the Inquisitors is that they're all style, no substance. Vader used them to weed out Padawans and low-level knights, so he wouldn't have to waste his time on dealing with cannon fodder Jedi. When this guy first meets Kanan and Ezra, he overwhelms them with his unorthodox weapon. As soon as Kanan becomes familiar with the way it works and starts practicing, it becomes a much more even battle, implying that the Grand Inquisitor isn't that far off from a Season 1 rusty Kanan in terms of skill. And when his successors meet up with a real master who knows how to deal with their weapons, that being Ahsoka and or Maul, they all come up short. Just because they have the textbook knowledge doesn't mean they have practical application of it. Eventually I want to use the Inquisitors in my own Versus series, so I'll go a little more into detail there, but that's all I wanted to say about the Grand Inquisitor here.
It was never easy for Ezra Bridger to meet his destiny. He was trained in the ways of the Force by a guy who never rose past the rank of Padawan. That's like learning how to make a pizza from someone who's only ever assembled a pizza Lunchable.
Weren't you just buttering up Kanan for his skill, power, and Force attunement? If you're going to praise people, praise people. If you're going to make fun of them, make fun of them. But you can't have it both ways to fit your agenda.
Being a great pilot will only get you so far, though. Surely there's more to this character than that, right? Well, we think that there is.
Having read the Han Solo novels and analyzing how powerful he is as a combatant, I know exactly how good Han can be. But I have problems with you just saying, he might be more than he appears. That's why he's on this list.
So, if this was a collector contest, or a coughing contest, Grievous would certainly earn first place. It's not though, and we need to be honest about this guy's abilities.
Honest in quotations, because we're going to give you a slanted version of the truth. If you actually believe what CBR says about Grievous here, and I'm saying this because I know this entry in particular is parroted by a lot of fans who only accept the 2003 version. I have an older video on my channel that gives the rundown on how I feel about the canon General Grievous, if you're curious. But I guess this entry really does sum up the rest of the list, doesn't it? By their own standards of counting resources as power, Grievous being in control of the Separatist army and running half the galaxy would put him extremely high on the list. But since the writers don't like him, they changed their tune to fit the personal preference. I can't believe I got through this the first time, and I'm even more angry about it now that I've had the second. I know last time I promised that I would do a video ranking all the Star Wars characters myself, and I have a link to that video in the description if you want to see it. Honestly, I want to keep doing this because CBR really is spreading a lot of misinformation, and I could probably go through their whole channel. But I'm not sure if I could do it alone. If I ever find a partner to go through this with me and sit through all the pain, I'll do more, I guess. Thank you everyone for watching. I'll see you guys later. Peace.